and the citizens. There are a number of issues that we are looking at, Chair, and those, at the end of the day, once that case passes that criteria, then it becomes a priority matter. We had a list of priority matters that we were keeping them as a CTD. We have moved them now to the NPCOC, which is also all of the agencies that are here are participating in it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I just give my impression? I think it depends on the detective or the investigators which case is moving by way of witness cooperation and availability of information, because you have not answered the question. I think what you are telling me is that there hasn't been a specific macro level guideline on how you prioritize cases at your level. There is now going to be, because that's all I wanted to know. Is it the amount of money? Is it, what is the issue? Advocate Batoy?
I'm just going to emphasize what General Makinyane just said, that when the ACTT was in place, there was a very specific initiative to address exactly what you're saying. How do we prioritize? How do we decide which cases will be dealt with in what order? And it's a that document took months to get together, and it deals with a whole lot of criteria, whether it's the value, whether it's the profile of the person concerned, the impact that it could make, and then there's even weightings that are attached to it in terms of the weightings and in order to determine the prioritization. So that is what in fact guides the prioritization. So it's a very clear, detailed document that assists the SAPs in prioritizing investigations then that the other entities get involved in. So I just wanted you to leave you with that, and not to think that there's no very structured approach to it, because it is there. Hopefully it's being applied in that way, but there's definitely a lot of thought that went into this very issue, and there is a guideline to address this very issue.
All right. No, thank you. Honorable Member.
No, thank you, Chair. No, Advocate Batoy is mentioning the work of the ACTT. I thought she was going to continue explaining to us what happened to that ACTT, which used to come and give us a monthly report. But in addition to the question which is being explained, I'm going to make an example now. You said there's about 500 new recruits you are going to look for, 300 internal, 200 external. I'm already seeing a danger, because yes, we are going to do 300 internal, and that internal is going to upgrade all your entry level that are dealing with the collection of data, compiling of documentation, looking for whatever information that's not very serious. And you're going to take 300 people from that space to the top. You're going to leave 300 spaces open, which is going to take another process to fill it up. That talks to the systems that are not in sync. You don't know how to fill, where you're going to be filling that gap from. It's not coming from college. Hence, I was asking, is there a relationship you have with universities or institutions that are producing the skill we are looking for, so that you can quickly fill in that 300 you're going to lose? The 200 that's going external is fine. It's people that are looking for jobs, good thing. We're welcoming it. But the 300 internally is going to create much more chaos for your prioritization, because you're not going to have the person who's collecting information from the ground. And the last one was on what you were responding in terms of the cases how you are prioritizing. I want to give you an example. You have Department of Health that the case is above 1 billion in terms of the amount you are investigating. It's 89 cases. We don't know how much each case has, but cumulatively it's above 1 billion. You have cases in court. It's 50 cases, and then 49 is still under investigation. You know what is happening now? clinics, hospitals, and everyone, corruption is taking place because these 89 people are not being prosecuted. We have heard about someone being arrested somewhere, briefly appeared, then was gone. Then the others are continuing. By next year, this time when you get here, we may be finding 2 billion in the space of health. But more than that, people are dead because it looks like nothing is happening. So we need to understand your prioritization so that we are able to even say, Chair, in a social cluster where a basic service delivery is affected, we can't leave this space open. It has to be prioritized. I'm just making an example with health. If you don't find a certain machine in a clinic where a tenderpreneur was supposed to have procured an equipment and procured a substandard, now an operation can't take place in a theater because the equipment is not up to standard. That person dies. And then when the case gets to DPCI, it's not prioritized because of whatever. That we don't know. That's exactly what the Chair and Honorable Matuana are asking. How are we getting to a point of saying we look at the importance of the case to make sure we nip every corrupt element in the bud and not open a room for it? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. It is indeed true that in the 300, there is a possibility that we would promote people who are inside the system. That is correct. There was a question, Chair, that was asked about the universities, the relationship that we have with the university. We do have a relationship with the universities. The team that I spoke of earlier from our forensic accounting goes and do some career expo or similar thing at universities to attract the young interested, the student that might be interested. The honourable member spoke of how do we prioritize. I'm not sure that the ACTT approach that my colleague tried to explain was understood. What happens is that in the NPCOC, which took over from the ACTT, because the ACTT was only focused on corruption. Now the NPCOC has broadened the scope. It now includes organized crime, it includes corruption, it includes serious commercial crime, the NPCOC. In that committee, SIU sits there, the NPA sits there, ourselves, and the SAPS sit there. We then look at the cases, and collectively we decided we will prioritize the following. It is a monthly process that we report to, and then the criteria is similar to what was at the ACTT, where we were looking at public interest, where we were looking at the amount involved, where we're looking at the complexity of the matter, where we would look at the impact that a specific case, if we were to have a takedown on it, will have. So we then, once we've prioritized it, it then comes to the way that General Makinyane was explaining, that we then form a team that will ensure that at least these specific ones that we have prioritized and we account monthly on are expedited. The the last aspect that I thought it is important also to mention is that we do not leave any case behind, but those that we say we are prioritizing, we then put more resources to them. Meaning that you might find that the one case is still investigated by a single investigator. But those that we say in the NPCOC that these are priority, we then put a team on, but all of them, whether they are in the team approach or single investigator, they will still be guided by the prosecutor. I hope you got that. Thank you.
All right.
Chair, maybe to touch, I think there was a question on the matter that was found not guilty, and then there was the honourable member wanted to know what case. It is a case that involves employees of the department, the teachers of education in Limpopo, who then applied to the department for the scholar transport issues. It's just that now the details of why they were found not guilty, having been charged, is that what we are trying to get to those, because it can be either a technicality when there was evidence, but we are trying to get that maybe before the round of questions is finalized, we can have those details to respond. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I give Honorable Kubeka, Atkinson, and Maduna a chance?
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to the House.
Sorry, it looks like I've missed an answer. Sorry.
No worries, Chair.
I wasn't sure if we had answered Honourable Isak's question, but then to start with, I'm not sure if I fully understood the question. It was about the obscured line of instruction between the NPA and the DPCI. So I was just trying to understand so that I can properly answer you. Chair, through you, of course, sorry.
Yeah, no, look, early on in the presentation, okay, so the impression that I got is that there seems to be somewhat of obscurity, exactly as my question implies. So I wanted you to clarify, are there no obscured lines? Are you comfortable the instructions are open and transparent, or do you sometimes have difficulty in having to communicate these instructions? Simple.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So, General Makinyana has explained the prosecutor-guided investigation model. To be brutally frank, I think we need to properly interrogate whether this model is working the way it should. Because ideally the way it should work is, as the General explained, the prosecutor gets involved in a complex investigation, not all investigations, on very complex ones, at an earlier stage in the investigation. And ideally, you know, that investigation should progress through, and prosecutors and investigators should also be on the same page, because they are meant to be working in a very coordinated way. But in General Libia's time even, you'd find that the investigators are saying one thing to their line of command, and the prosecutors are saying something else to the prosecution line of command. And I think that is where you have these challenges. And I think, going back to what the chair said, you know, unless maybe the IDAC is the prosecution-led model is perhaps the model that we should be looking at in terms of very complex cases, because, and we've been, General Libya, and even at the national level, you know, we've been trying to find ways of ensuring that at the provincial level, where the work actually happens, where the cases, where the prosecutors and investigators are working together, what are the challenges with that model, and to see how we could actually improve that model, or to think about new models of how we do this. So we have incredibly good relationships. So that's no challenges with that. At provincial level, national level, coordination is good, working well. But I still do see a lot of challenges in the prosecutor-guided model, because you will have investigators and prosecutors having different understandings, yet if they are working in the team the way they're meant to be working on a case, all of them, everyone should be on the same page about this. But I think we need to interrogate this more and to understand what are the strengths of this model, what are the weaknesses, and how do we strengthen the model if we want to get the best outcome. Fully understanding that prosecutors are not investigators. Investigators are investigators, and there should be skills, capacity, expertise in the police to be able to know what it's necessary to have a prosecutable, strong case. It should not be that the prosecutors are, of course, we will do that, but ideally that guidance should come from within the police. They should know, in order to prove a complex case like this, you have the experience, expertise. So the prosecutors has a minimal guiding role, not a major guiding role, because that investigation is happening in the SAPs. You've got the skills, expertise. But I think there's a gap there, so that we need to look into. So that's an important question, and I think we as entities need to interrogate this model carefully and understand what are the weaknesses and what are the strengths, and how do we build on it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Allow me just to comment. This is exactly why I raised the question. Sometimes I would read a newspaper or an article or an op-ed, and I'd find it difficult myself to comprehend and understand as to what are these obscured lines. Why is it so? I sometimes think of the ordinary South African out there who wants to try and understand the dynamics of the NPA and the DPCI and how does the SIU fit in. So this is why I actually raised this, because I needed to get some clarity, and I appreciate the frankness that the advocate has alluded to, that we really maybe need to look at this and come up with some form of simplicity or clarity. But I thank you again. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. Look, I think there's also a risk that I see where the prosecutor is too involved, in that the investigation might be misdirected, where the prosecutor has preconceived notions of what needs to happen from early on. I think ideally you want a sufficient detachment from the specifics of the investigation for the prosecutor to make the right decision. Otherwise, a prosecutor comes across a potential witness they don't like, because they're just obstinate and crude, and that might affect, it might not happen all the time or happen habitually, but I do think that guidance is okay. Too deep an involvement can be a problem. I think. Honorable Kupeka, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. And greetings once again to the House. Greetings, honorable members. Greetings to the teams from the Hawks, the SIU, NPA, DPCI, IDAC. Chair, I think we've spoken about this, but I want to speak more about it. That any institution, Chair, that operates with more or less 50% of a staff complement is being set up to fail. It's being deliberately set up to fail. Now, I worry because I believe that the executives that run that institution, they've been there for quite some time. Now, if we've got a situation like that, that means that this is being done on purpose. And I don't want to be sitting here bashing the institution, but from the public's view or from our view, it looks very bad. If you've had people who've been working in the institution, who've been running the institution for years, and they know that there's 50% of the people who are supposed to be helping them function properly, and they're not functioning. It's a big problem, Chair, especially given all of the issues and the cloud that is hanging on these institutions. Chair, Advocate Batoy said that they cannot keep up with the competitive remuneration for specialized skills. We get that. Now, what has been done about that? What has she done about that? Has she come to Parliament to speak to that? Has she gone to Treasury to speak to that? Because then it means that they need to, have they not considered approaching Treasury to say, guys, we cannot keep up with the remuneration that the private sector is giving to people with these specialized skills. We need to up our ante. Chair, we know the NPA, it does not give confidence to the public in general now, after the lack of prosecution on their part. We have high-profile cases, Chair, and I'll just mention a few. We've got the state capture cases, a big issue. Still, nothing's happening there. We're told that there's 4 cases that emanate from state capture. 4. When R1 billion was spent by the Zondo Commission, we're sitting with 4 cases. We've got the Palapala saga. Nothing's happening. We've got Majela Gogo's case. Nothing. Timo Motoso. Nothing. Bushiri. Nothing. Estina Dairy Farm. Nothing. Gupta Brothers extradition. Nothing. Free State asbestos scandal. Nothing. Along with the botched Morwadi Cholota case. Nothing. Cindy Somakaka case. Nothing. That doesn't look good. It says we've got a problem, Chair. It says we have a huge problem, and I think before we leave this house, we need to understand where is that problem emanating from. Out of these entities that sit with us today, where is the problem coming from? Chair, there are concerns about the NPA's capacity to deal with complex corruption cases with the potential for political interference. Now, as they sit here, there's a view, a very big view that is unspoken of, especially in this committee, because we tend to tiptoe around certain issues, that they are viewed as people who are politically influenced to step on certain cases and not on others. The NPA has faced accusations of mishandling cases and delaying justice, especially in high-profile cases. That too is a problem. In cases of poor people or people who cannot afford these fancy lawyers, those ones get prosecuted. And that's just a view that we now have of the NPA, and it's not a good look. Chair, again, on the national lotteries cases, I just want to know, and here's a question. Is the scope of the investigation going to be expanded given the issues that were ventilated in this House a couple of weeks ago, where there's a lot of other cases that we looked at when the NLC was here, the National Lotteries Commission? Or are those cases already covered in the slides that we got or that we received here today? On that 1 billion rand that was spent, Chair, on the State Capture Commission, are there any more cases coming from that front? And if there are no cases coming, Chair, should this 1 billion rand expenditure on the Commission not be classified as fruitless and wasteful expenditure? That's a question for the team as well. And then, Chair, we have to ask ourselves that what is the core function of the NPA as it stands right now? Are they following people or certain individuals instead of following the evidence? Because you can't tell us that with the high number of high-profile cases that are not being taken to bed, that all of them seem to have a problem. Before the case is taken up and thrown into the media, is there not enough investigative capacity to determine that, okay, this one will be able to see through, so we take it on? No, this one we leave it because we can't take it on. Before you take people and you ruin people's lives, you put them in the media, they are paraded in front of everyone as these corrupt people, and then at the end of the day, there's nothing. Case in point, Matjela Koko. Matjela Koko was picked up at his house with his family and they were taken in by, I think it was the Hawks, if I'm not mistaken. And the whole country believed that those people are corrupt. And then the Middleburg Commercial Crimes Court has just thrown the thing out, years later. Now, a lot of people have not, they don't even know about what I'm talking about now because it's not been plastered all over the media the way it was plastered when he was being taken into custody. Because now everyone believes that Matjela Koko is corrupt, but evidently he's not. So again, I ask, Chair, are they following evidence or are they following certain people? And then lastly, Chair, I wanted to ask, how secure is, now this is for the IDEC team. I heard that...
Members, please.
I heard that...
Honorable Kupega is speaking, so it's not okay to speak while he is.
Chair, I wanted to ask, how secure is any investigation, now this is for IDEC, that includes outsourced investigation capabilities? Do these outsourced investigating people, do these people sign NDAs? Do they have any security clearance? Do they need any clearance? Because if you are saying, okay, we're a specialized unit specializing in this, yet when we need to investigate that specialized item, we outsource. So when you're in that process of outsourcing, are these people vetted? Are they given security clearance? Are they made to sign NDAs? Or what is the process there? And then, sorry, Chair, I see there's one more point that I missed. On the Transnet Neotel contracts, I think the unfortunate issue here, Chair, is with having these issues taking prolonged periods of time to put to bed. You find the issue of Liquid Telecoms, it was also on the slides, where Liquid Telecoms is still operating in other government entities. And I say this because yesterday, actually, I posed a question to the Minister of Transport about Liquid Telecoms, asking them that there's a contract that they're running concurrently with, it was Datacentrics. One of those companies has been, the contract has been terminated at Eskom, but they've been paid close to 100 million rand already, even after having been terminated. Now, if that company is Liquid Telecoms, the same Liquid Telecoms that's being investigated here, we need to realize and appreciate that these cases taking long to get dealt with is causing a huge problem, and the ripple effect is big. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So let me provide guidance in this way. So if you'll recall, Honorable Kupega said we'll deal with the DPCI first, and then the members after lunch will deal with the NPA. I didn't want to disturb your train of thought as you were talking. So please note all of those questions that are for the NPA. Then when we deal with you after lunch, then deal with you sounds bad. I don't mean it that way, but you get what I mean. Then please deal with the Honorable Kupeka. So to the extent that they apply to the DPCI, so please deal with those. Honorable Atkinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. In one of your slides, you went through the, sorry, thanks for the presentations, by the way, but in one of the slides that were shown to us from the DCPI, you gave the total amount of money being dealt with in these particular cases. And I think the two that were the biggest was the Department of Health, which was close to R1 billion in total. And then I think the Department of Education as well was pretty close to that. So my thought is if one does have an issue of capacity and capacity constraints, following the good old accounting principle of always looking for what can have the greatest effect, surely you should be focusing on dealing with those particular departments, because that does appear to be where you've got a problem. And the problem is if people feel they can get away with stuff, it just causes that stuff to grow. You know, that the kinds of actions to grow that actually add greatly to those amounts. So I would have thought, specifically having a focus on your two biggest amounts in rands that need to be prosecuted, because that would actually help to kind of, I suppose, nip the bad actions in the bud, because they do seem to be pretty much concentrated in two departments in government, according to that. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Maduna.
No.
I was joking when I said the Hawks were looking for you. You still look worried.
No, thanks, Chair. The first thing I was going to start by saying was to apologize to Hawks for whatever reason they are looking me for. They are looking for me for. So, no, thanks, Chair. Good day, Chair. Honorable members and colleagues from DP, CI and NPA and so on. No, thanks. I will also follow suit and be very short. I just have, I think one question will emanate from the fact that I think they said that they are going to prioritize about 500 posts for the upcoming financial year. Now, 200 being from internal. Now, I wanted to check, okay, should you get this 200 internal, are you already having arrangement in terms of where the posts that they will be coming from to keep them? In terms of the how you will fill them thereafter, after we've employed this one to this new post that you will be advertising. I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but hopefully I am. And then, yeah, I think in line with what the chair was saying, I think I think it's very important that the territory have forensic auditors of their own. Reason being that, you know, once you involve external service providers in sensitive investigation, there's now an opportunity for some compromise, for some compromise and some biasness to take place in those investigations. So my first question will be, I think the chair would have asked it, but I would like to expand further, because I would want to understand really in terms of this, how do you sit down and decide that this should be prioritized from this. I think it's very important that I get that in a much more clearer sense. And my second question is that, how do you measure the effectiveness of your investigations, and what metrics or benchmarks is it using to assess its impact on reducing priority crime? What indicators do you use to evaluate the success of your investigation, and how do you use this information to refine your strategies and improve performance? The second question, which will be the last one, Chair, I wanted to check what measures are you taking to ensure that your investigations are intelligence driven, and how is it? How are you using data analytics to inform your investigation strategies? What sources of intelligence do you rely on? And lastly, how do you validate and verify intelligence to ensure that it's accurate and reliable? Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and members. May I start with the Honorable Kupega? When we got the invite, the focus was on matters that are referred to NPA and ourselves by SIU. So when we give figures like that says 4 state capture matters, that is not to say we are investigating 4 state capture measures. we were referring only to those where there is a referral. The same as the honourable member mentioned of the National Lotteries Commission. That 7 are only the 7 with the referrals. Thank you, Chairperson. A question was asked about the vetting when we outsource our investigation, when we don't have the resources in-house. We do sign a non-disclosure agreement with that outsourced, but we do not issue security clearance for them or cause them to be issued with security clearance, nor do we vet them. But the safety measure that is in place is that most of them belong to some professional bodies where if they were to break the confidentiality clause, it would risk their future. So I think that serves as a safety net, that they would not, and we haven't had the contravention of the agreements that we have had with them in the past. But I do agree with yourself and the Honorable Maduna as well when it talks to that once all is insourced, once we could do them in-house, that will be far better and a preferred way of doing things going forward.
Sorry, may I just ask, so you do no background checks at all on the people that are going to handle the case? I mean, I understand working with a forensic outfit, right? But surely you also want to make sure that the specific individuals that are working with it don't have other problems elsewhere. Let's say somebody has a gambling problem, and that makes them susceptible to being paid money to provide information, or to, you know what I mean? You get the risk I'm trying to say. So it seems worrying that you are suggesting that the specific individuals that get forwarded don't then undergo any kind of background checking at all. You rely on the professional bodies to which they belong to punish them later if they happen to do something.
It is something that we should really look into, Chairperson, but at the moment it is not. It's something that we need to
okay, so please do.
Indeed. Then there was, I think my colleague will speak to the issues that talks to liquid telecoms, if it was in your presentation, sir. Then there was a question that was raised by the Honourable Atkinson that speaks to the value. Maybe I don't want to keep on repeating, maybe I might bore you, but what I wanted to say is that the collective that sits in the NPCOC prioritize, and the value is one of the aspects that is considered. As I mentioned, it's the value, it's a public interest, and the possible impact that the success could have are the considerations. So the value is definitely included in that. The Honourable Maduna asked the question, what is our plan for the replacement of those that we possibly will promote within the system, creating a vacancy? Honourable Chair, what we will have to do is that amongst those that will be taken from within the system, it's similar to the question that was asked by the Honourable Mentor. It is inevitable that there will be posts that when we promote people will become vacant. Those we will fill up with the next round, but also there is a possibility that we might get applications from the bigger SAPS coming to us, and then that question of a gap becomes that of the bigger SAPS than ourselves. I think I've spoken to the prioritization and the external role players. I think the question there from the Honourable Maduna was similar to that of Honourable Gubega in terms of the risk that it carries, and we have agreed that it does. And therefore, the correct way going forward is to utilize our own in-house. And then my colleague here will talk to what indicators I use when we deal with the intelligence. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe, Chair, let me first indicate the companies that were mentioned by the Honourable Member, those Neotel, they are not in our presentation. They are in the presentation of the IDEC. So I'm sure the IDEC will respond on that. Now, the issue of the intelligence, yes, the DPSI is supported by crime intelligence on the investigations, though because of these resource constraints, we are not supported to the level where one would be happy of. But there are matters that are supported that comes from the intelligence, and they are supported by intelligence throughout in the various spheres of investigation, like the crime, the commercial crime, the organized crime, and the serious corruption investigation. So the other question of the Honourable Member was, how are we looking into the effectiveness of our investigation? The DPSI is also looking into, as the mother body, that is the SAPS, we are looking into the detection rate on the cases that we are doing. We are also looking into the successful, what is the conviction rate on the cases, which does not necessarily that we look into on our own only, jointly with the NPA. But more specific on us is the detection rate that we always look into the percentage of our successful investigation on the matters. It is true that our matters take very long, Chair, which is not what we always like, but it is the situation that we're in, the resources issue that comes into play. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honourable Scopa, I'm looking at you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And good afternoon. All protocols observed. Yeah, Chair, I want to start...
Sorry, Honourable Scopa.
Chair, I was wondering if I misheard you. Will NPA respond after lunch on all of the issues? Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, I will start with a comment and then come to a very few questions. I think on the matter that was raised earlier in relation to a need for legislative amendment in order to reduce the turnaround time for handling cases within the ecosystem. Because definitely I think the current situation is a serious challenge because a proclamation is issued to the SIU. The SIU, they take their time investigating the matter, and then the matter get referred to the NPA. Now the NPA, well, because they are not only dealing with SIU matters, they've got quite a lot of work that they are dealing with. So SIU issues just become part of the lot of work that they are doing. So they take their time before they process those matters and look at them, and then refer those matters to the DCPI. DCPI take their time investigating those matters, and then after investigation, those matters go back to the NPA again. Then they are piled there in the NPA because they are handling a number of issues, the NPA. Then at an appropriate time, then the NPA will then take a decision whether to prosecute or not. It's only at that stage that then the matter goes to court. So it takes very long. And I think it's one of the reasons that in some of the cases which the SIU have seen a potential for them to be winnable, but when at a time the NPA has to take a decision, you find that at that time there's no longer a tangible evidence. And then the NPA will end up saying, no, we don't see prospect of winning this case, or we don't see tangible evidence that can be used, because it will be maybe after 5 years. You see, might be after 5 years, because this thing started at the SIU level, it went to the NPA, from the NPA to DCPI, DPCIS, from DPCI back to the NPA. So because of that time, because of the period that it takes for all these things, obviously it will affect, in some cases, it will affect the evidence and all that. So I support the view that there should be a legislative amendment in the ecosystem of handling these cases. Now, I see a DCPI that amongst some of the cases that we're dealing with, there's an issue of national treasury, where there's only one case which is under investigation, but the case amounts to 1 billion rands. So I just want to find out what is the case all about. It amounts to 1 billion rands. Secondly, with regards to municipalities, I see we've got 35 cases where municipalities are involved. 14 of them are under investigation. 17 of them are submitted for a decision. And then only 4 are at the court docket stage. Yeah, well, my concern here, because on the only 4 cases that are at the court docket stage, they only amount to a tune of about 3.9 million rands. And when you look at the cases that are still under investigation, they amount to about 349 million rands. And cases that are submitted for a decision, they amount to 437 million rands. So I don't know how old are all these cases, but cases that are at the court stage, they only amount to 3.9 million rand compared to the other 2, which is 349 million rands for those under investigation and 437 million rands for those that are submitted for a decision. So I don't know how old are these cases. Maybe you can tell us, because I think it doesn't give us comfort, because it looks like the input, when you compare the input and the output, there seem to be a serious discrepancy that very few matters get finalized, And then quite a number of matters are still either at the investigation stage or still awaiting a decision on the part of the NPA. So I think it doesn't give a very good picture that is encouraging. If you have cases that only amount to 3.9 compared to cases that amount to more than 400 million and more than 300 million, you see, it doesn't look good. Maybe you can just elaborate as to how old are these cases and what are the challenges with regards to that. And also with regards to the COVID-19 cases, where you've got about 93 cases, COVID-19 related cases, and only 22 are before the court, 12 submitted for a decision, and 59 still under investigation. So cases that are still under investigation, they almost constitute 2/3 percentage of the total, because it's 59 out of 93. And COVID-19, I think it's something that happened 4 to 5 years ago. So it also doesn't give us comfort that 4 to 5 years later, 60% of the, about 66% of the cases, they are still under investigation. I don't know, maybe they constitute what you earlier referred to as complex cases. I don't know, maybe you can elaborate on that, whether these cases that complex that it makes you to take so much time to conclude them. And then lastly, Chair, with regards to the shortage of staff, I just want to make sure if I've captured you well as to that. The reason you've got a shortage of staff, it has all to do with with your low remuneration package, which results in high staff turnover. That when your staff members see greener pastures somewhere else, they easily leave because of the low remuneration packages. Is that the main reason that you are standing at 50%? Don't you have a resources challenge? Don't you have a budget challenge that you are unable to fill other posts because you don't have money? Is it just because of the issue that the remuneration packages are low and therefore people don't stay immediately? They see greener pasture somewhere, they easily leave. Thank you very much, Chair.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, our advocates and the head of the NPA, DPSI, and all present. I have quite a few questions that I wish to pose to you. And one of the areas that I wanted to post to ask is that I've not heard any word that says turnaround strategy. There's been collaboration between different departments, but one would have thought that you would have presented a turnaround strategy. And then my next question is, and do you have a comprehensive and cost strategic plan? Because if you are to collaborate with all the different departments, the different divisions, one would have then come together and said, look, let's draw up a master plan now with everything and all the different elements so that you can navigate your way forward. And with that plan, it then also tells you how you collaborate. Because my next question is going to be, if you have an MOU with the SIU, why are you not using their resources? Surely they have spent years, and I'm saying years, on gathering evidence. Now that evidence, first of all, they would have had information that would have got them the proclamation. From that proclamation that is signed by the President, that is giving you that there is obviously where there is smoke, there's fire. So that goes there. From there, it is investigated. It could take a few years, which we've seen. It is absolutely a lot of information.
why would you not then collaborate with them, use that information, because it is obviously thorough, because they would never have given it to you in the first place if they didn't think there was a case. And that is why you would then, why would you want to go and investigate? Surely you would take that information and then just add the missing pieces that you would want to go to court. So the other thing is that you said if the SIU also have facilities, or they have procured facilities to get all that information, which you talked about, the terabytes of data, they would give it to you. So they would be able to sit with you and unpack it. Because there is a directorate that has spent years gathering that information, only for you to say, okay, now we start again. So I don't understand that. And then in your MOU, and maybe I'm missing something, why would you not collaborate more closely with the SIU? So that you are the springboard, because there's the triangle. The SIU is at the top, NPA is on the side, the information goes to NPA, then it goes to the DPCI, and all the other directorates, working very well with the asset forfeiture, because after lunch I have some questions on that side. With your strategic plan, if you're talking about your cyber crime, would you not then, as SAPS, say that's the area crime intelligence would deal with? So that there's a collaboration, because what we are seeing is disjointed information, disjointed structures. And I come from public safety, so I know what I'm talking about. So the other area that I wanted to touch on is that exactly what my colleagues were saying. There's 200 internal posts. I have a problem with that, because I already see in the area that I come with, those that have come from the ranks to the Hawks sometimes are compromised, because one of the areas that you've got organized crime wanting to put their own in the Hawks, okay? And I can tell you now there's infiltration. I mean, you haven't managed to come forward with 180 cases of kidnapping. So if you can't even solve kidnapping, how are you going to solve these cases? And some of those cases are managed by the Hawks, who are, some of the members have been compromised. So those are areas. So one of the points that I would like to say is lifestyle audit. Have the Hawks themselves gone through the process of lifestyle audit? Everybody in there. Security clearance of your own. Do you, just because you are the Hawks, do you have a security clearance? It's different when you take officers, which I've seen in my own experience, from the ranks. They think it's great to be on the Hawks. They're like cowboys, because when you are in the Hawks, you need to be strategic in the sense of the kind of criminals that you're dealing with. You can't have cowboys out there and thinking that they can go and just be loose cannonballs. You actually need to have strategic members in the Hawks that have the background, as we were saying, that have the CA in law. But at the same time, you would have those that are operational within your side, that are good at tactical operations. And we've seen some good cases, but it's been from SAPS who have actually caught the criminals, not so much the Hawks. It's when they've collaborated with SAPS, they've actually, unfortunately, those criminals, as soon as they shoot back, they're shot. But what I'm saying is the cases, we want to see a success. We want to see those cases prosecuted. My last question, Chair, which is my favorite one, is the cottage industry for lawyers and accountants. Are you now going to open another door for lawyers and accountants to assist in any of if you are going to be sourcing some of your work out, okay? well, what we have seen here in Scopa is the cottage industry for lawyers that are now suddenly looking at coming into that kind of role. In the Eastern Cape, we have seen collaboration between lawyers and prosecutors. Okay? So my question is, how are the collusion between your prosecutors and the lawyers coming to the finalization of a case? No, there's not much evidence here, when in fact the evidence is there. It just possibly hasn't been unpacked properly because the SIU has done that homework. All you have to do is put the cherry on the top and go to court. And so those are the challenges and the information that I wanted to see. I have a lot of questions, but I'm sure it will then all feed into the NPA. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chair, and greetings, everybody. So I don't think I have any questions, but mine's just more a comment. And I just think there's a total lack of political will to fight corruption. I just looked at some figures now. In 2023, the VIP protection had a budget of 3.8 billion. It looked after 200 people. With a bloated cabinet, it's probably more now, looking after more people. And the Hawks, in the same time period, had a budget of 2.2 billion. So a budget of 60%, but it was to fight corruption for 60 billion people. So, Chair, until there's political will to fix this corruption, until the Hawks is properly staffed, to fight an organization that is 50% understaffed, you're whistling in the wind, you've got no chance. Your guys are overworked, you're understaffed, under-budgeted. You're fighting your tails and you've got no chance. And our commitment as Action SA, we will do whatever we can do to ensure that you're properly funded. I mean, I've sit here in Scopa sometimes. The RAF, it's a 50 billion cesspool of corruption, yet the Hawks gets 3 billion. I mean, it's unbelievable. You could fund yourself but there's just a lack of political will. Until there's political will, we're whistling in the wind. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I will deal with the questions and then those that my Divisional Commissioner will then finalize the other questions. Let me first, Chair, indicate on the Honourable Member wanted to know which case of National Treasury that has got an amount reflected as 1 billion rand there. It is a matter that involves the appointment of Oracle, which was referred by the SIU by appointment by the National Treasury. That is the amount that is the case that is under investigation for the National Treasury. And then there was also a comment from the Honourable Member on the issue of the evidence provided by SIU in the cases. The evidence that SIU provides, DBSI works from there. The SIU will always provide an affidavit that talks all the evidence that they feel is pointing to the criminal elements on the case. Now, that statement alone still needs to be supported by investigation, still need to be collaborated through various statements or individuals that would have been mentioned by SIU. That is the investigation that now starts immediately the SIU have referred. I am referring to that in a matter which was not necessarily in the space of the DPSI before the SIU make a referral. So the evidence of the SIU is taken into account and you work and add on that. The vetting of the DPSI members, the legislation requires that the DPSI members should have the security clearances, which we have, but unfortunately we don't have that clearance, all of us, because of the delays and the challenges that crime intelligence is having. But it is the requirement by the legislation that we should have security clearances in the environment. I think it has been indicated even in the past presentations that we at times even lose the potential candidates when there are vacancies, especially on the senior management, when we could not appoint whoever that have been interviewed and qualified to be appointed simply because he does not have a security clearance. The process takes too long. Then the issue, Chair, of the outsourcing is not new in the DPCI, and it's not new. We have been doing that all along. And I think the Divisional Commissioner indicated that we make sure that those companies that we are outsourcing for the skills that we don't have within the DPCI, it has been there more on the auditing space. The entity that the DivCom talks about that has got 2 chartered accountants and those who are 16 now. It is a new entity that has been formed within the DPCI in the last 3 years. And the purpose of developing that is to, in a long run, to do away with the outsourcing. So we make sure that those companies, they sign the confidentiality certificate to ensure that whatever we share with them should not be shared as they wish. So those are the questions that I will just deal with them. I'll give to the DivCom. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The question by the Honourable Member Skosana was that when we say of the shortage, is it only because of the pay? No, that is not what we were saying. If it came that way, it would have been not our intention. We were only speaking to the scarce skills section where we were talking to your chartered accountants and the security, cyber security space. But in the others, what makes shortage in the rest of the organization will be the natural attrition, people retiring or others unfortunately passing away. And then maybe our recruitment process is not quick enough to pick up the pace so that we can replace all those that we lose and also in the process grow. That has been the problem, but not necessarily that it was the salary that created a problem. Thank you, Chairperson.
Nobody's volunteering to comment on whether the cabinet is bloated. None of you want to go there. Any takers, Advocate Motibi? No takers, no.
It's career limiting, that one.
Honorable Kupeka said we tiptoe here. We are tiptoeing now. Okay, honorable members, the time is 25 to 2. So can I ask that we are back here at 10 past 2 so that we can then take it home? It will be the NPA's 10. But nobody is being let off the hook yet. You stay because the questions cross over. Thank you very much. Sorry, Honorable Beasley, they didn't answer your question. I am told that the lunch is there's lunch downstairs.